Welcome to episode 84. This is Russ, and you can see I moved the boat from the marina back to my anchorage, and I'm looking at the big gray mail ship. I'm not going to hit it. I'm not going to hit it. I'm not going to hit it. Turn at the last second. There we go. And I'm off to my anchorage. So, welcome to episode 84. Welcome to my new anchorage. So you can see I'm pretty close to the merchant docks. That's called Potter's Cay. And I was actually thinking about anchoring back in there as close to the bridge as I could get. It's deep enough. And none of those boats seem to move. So, and I still might consider that. If I'm getting beat up by the weight too much, because I'm further out than I want to be. Some boats are to come out there. I know there'll be a boat or two that'll end up anchoring here, but we'll see how bad the wake is. Hi, I'm Russ. This is Sailing Vessel Tautog. Our current location is Nassau, at anchor on the island of New Providence in the Bahamas. Again, status is at anchor. My status was in the marina for the last, I think 12 or 13 days, but I left frankly because of money. $74 a day, it adds up, and I just kind of was going to get an upset tummy if I stayed in the marina anymore. And we're going to stay at anchor for about 4 nights, and I'm expecting to get underway. Okay, goodbye Nassau. We're looking at the cruise ship piers right now, and they are devoid of cruise ships. This is the main anchor fleet here, heading off towards between here and the big bridge, the first big bridge. I see a large vessel outbound behind us, so that's something to take note of. Thank goodness for a nice day. Although I do see a big old thunder thing passing over there, but I don't think we're gonna hit that. I don't know. We just don't know yet. I'll get Ken on it. So. What I should tell you is that I have a friend aboard, so my friend Ken is here to help me make this jump from here to the USA. And everybody has different levels of experience, so we're going to feel each other out for the first hour or so to make sure we're both comfortable with how we operate boats. He's got plenty of experience, so I'm happy with that. But again, things are different when you got somebody else on the boat. But right now, the key in these circumstances is don't get run over by a big ship. We saw the pilot boat go out about half an hour ago, so I'm assuming he's bringing in a cruise ship right around the bend, probably just where we can't see. Hey there, so it's December 30, time a little after 10 a.m. We're northwest of New Providence Island, about 15 miles in our stern. Motored for the first 2.5 hours, and I think that's right, 3 hours, and 3 hours of motoring, and then shut the engine off, and I'm now on a very slow broad reach. Got the wind out of the east-southeast right now, probably coming from about 100 to 110, and I'm trying to steer, of course, directly downwind. That'd be my ideal course. But the best I can make is about 270. Agatha seems pretty happy with that. The sails seem pretty happy, and we're making 2 to 2.5 knots. So, I don't know that I would ask for much more except for the wind to clock around to the proper southeast. But they are exactly where they're supposed to be right now, and later on this evening the winds are going to clock around to the southeast, and we'll be able to steer our desired heading much more easily. So, yeah, this is my sun protection collar look. Oh my gosh. So right now I think we're all good. A beautiful day. The winds are, again, east-southeast at 10 knots. We're doing all right. Let me show you where we're at. I just turned on the chart plotter just for this event, just for this video, because I typically don't leave it on. But we are down here. We left Nassau. Down here about, 15 miles? It says 18 miles into the trip on the very top of that bar. And so we're trying to make it to this little cut. We're trying to make it to here, although there's another pass somewhere a little bit south of that, which I'm probably not too keen on trying at night. I'll go with my tried and true way. So we'll follow this, and I think we'll be able to veer a little bit further north, of course, and we'll just see how close we can get to our mark. And we can always do a jibe and run north for a while, and then get back on this heading and sail through there. But that will be late in the day. That'll be in the evening hours when it's dark. So there's a chance. I'll use a motor to do that, to kind of fine-tune my way through that channel. Probably that's what I'll do. But no complaints at all right now. So it's a beautiful day. Anchored, Chub Cay, December 30. Time 16:53 or 16:38. Whew, long day, frustrating in that we had a hard time with sailing solutions. So difficult. Pretty much the wind was directly behind the heading we had to go on. We could jibe back and forth, but we weren't going any faster doing that. So, and the heading going directly to the northwest channel. The heading going directly to the northwest channel was, I mean, we were running dead downwind. So, but the wind seemed to pick up just as we decided to come into Chub Cay. The wind seemed to pick up, so made me kind of want to reconsider and say, let's jump back out there. But wisdom is a better part of valor, or something like that. So when you have an opportunity to stop and rest, stop and rest. We have a week to get our dumbasses about 100 miles, yeah, which is all it is to Florida. So I'm sure we can manage that, even if we just have to motor the whole thing. But this is Chub Cay. These two guys just dropped the hook right after we did. Well, one's dropped it, one's going down. These guys are heading for the channel, which is where the hoity-toity marina is. One of the most expensive places on the planet, it seems like. It's all private stuff. So they charge $100 for dinghies to dock here, to use a dinghy dock. $100, and then they charge more than that if you want to bring a bag of trash. I found that out last time I was here, and I said, fuck that. But still, it's free to anchor. December 30, sunset, Chub Cay. Two ships passing in the night. I like the way his dinghy is behind him and held so much higher in the air than mine can go. Not sure what kind of boat that is. It's not modern. I like it. That's a good looking ship. In addition to that, it's almost sunrise, and just left to the sun you can see another sailboat that's overtaking me from the stern. I don't see the sails up. He may be under motor. Fine, but he has to overtake me. That means I've got the right of way, so I just keep on keeping on. So this guy's heading the other way, probably for Bimini or for Nassau. I like that boat. It's a good looking boat. It's a tough slog though, motoring into seas like this. You know, he's not going very fast, and he's not squawking AIS, although I do see a radar on his boat, but nothing on AIS for him. Yeah, so good Saturday morning, I think. So yesterday was a shit day, full of motoring too much, and we've been making about 4.5, 5 knots since about 3:30 in the morning when we left. Maybe 4 o'clock, I think we left. Almost sunrise now, so I'll be turning my lights off in just a second here. I wanted to get past this guy first and make sure I'm on a good heading. And all seems to be well. I've got the chart monitor turned on because I'm very close to a reef right now. So, you know, we're just a couple miles off that reef, and we're trying to get through that choke point, and then we go past unsurveyed shallows and continue on across the bank. So today's goal is to get through this, then I have this open, wide open area where exact heading almost doesn't matter. Roughly heading for that red ball there. You know, that's roughly where we're trying to get to. And that's a gap in the reef where we can cross over to the Gulf Stream and get over to, get across to the West Palm area. The thinking is that once we pass El Dorado Shoal and head out to the Gulf Stream, we'll get set by the stream, and we're really not trying to cross it per se. We're trying to cross the thick of it. When we get to the slow lane on the left side going north, we're just going to stay in the Gulf Stream because we want to get up to Fort Pierce. So it's a bit of a different strategy, but the wind should be out of the south tomorrow, and that'll be perfect for crossing the Gulf Stream. Absolutely no wind at all. In fact, this has more wind than it was an hour ago. You can see some ripples on the water, but it's not good sailing stuff. So the sails folded up, head sails furled up, and the iron spinnaker is running, heading into sunset. We're going to stop the engine in about 5 minutes. We'll go 1 more mile, then stop and just rest for an hour and see if the wind picks up any, because it had been completely flat. Yeah, so the wind had been completely flat, and now you can see there's a little bit. If there's ripples on the water, there's some air moving, but is it enough to move the boat? For me, even if it's enough to move at 2 knots, that's enough. If we can head towards our objective at 2 knots, that's fine with me. Even if it'll take all night and most of tomorrow to get there, but at some point the wind will pick up. So I don't want to just resign myself to motoring all the way to freaking Florida. I mean, that may end up what we do. We don't know that yet, but anyway, we got a moon up in the sky, and that's cool. And the only downside is that we don't have any wind to sail with. It's been a struggle all day trying to sail the heading we want, so we've been doing some jibing and some tacking around, trying to head the direction we want to go. So the object right now is to continue 25-30 miles, I think, no, 35 miles straight ahead. So that's about 7 hours of engine runtime if we're going to just motor the whole thing. And then we'll cross in the reef, and we'll be out in the main water, the deep water, and we'll cross into the Gulf Stream after that. So we're not that far out. We have to motor more to get to the reef than we have to get across it. I'll cross the Gulf Stream, so we're making progress. We've been sailing in company with another sailboat who I don't see anymore. He's over there somewhere. And they were trying to sail making about 2 knots, and we were trying to sail making about 2 knots. And then we passed a sailboat out here going the opposite direction, and he was trying to sail, he had a full canvas up, and that's after we had started the motor. So the philosophical question is, well, how long do you just sit here becalmed before you just say enough? We have to get somewhere at some point. We don't have enough food for a century. We can go a week or 2 with the food we have, but so and on the one hand there is no schedule, on the other hand there really kind of is, because I got stuff to do on the other end. Ken has some stuff he's got to do on the other end. So a delay of a day, no problem. 2 days, no problem. But I guess what I would say is, the longer you sit out here, the longer you're at risk to another cold front coming. So we are exposed. There is no place to hide here. If you feel kind of naked out here on this bank, even though the water is very shallow, it doesn't typically build up big ugly seas. If it started blowing out of the north, we would we would just have to double reef and put up a staysail and just try to sail out of it. That's all you could do, I guess, because there's no place to hide here, no place to get anchored in a protected anchorage here. So the Great Bahama Bank is really pretty cool. It's beautiful, and people like it because it's calm, and you can sail across it or motor across it in a day. I mean, the motor boats, of course, they get up and do 12-15 knots, and they buzz across fairly quickly. Sailboats, it would take a full day to get across this bank if you had good conditions. About 60 miles, at least 60 miles to get across this thing. So anyway, let's get this engine shut down. Well, it's January 1, 2023, time 0000. And my friend Ken just saw fireworks going up over Bimini, and we're on the move. So we're moving slowly. Very little wind right now, only making about 1.7 knots. We're slowly creeping across the Bahama Bank at present rate of speed, with 24 miles to go before we get to the reef. Looking like at least 10 to 12 hours before we get, to the reef, and so that'll be lunchtime tomorrow. And we're just hopeful that the south winds pick up enough to move us across the Gulf Stream tomorrow, or we might just have to motor, most of the way, which is kind of a bummer because I really don't like to motor, but I think it would be what we would do. Or we could just anchor tomorrow afternoon and then just spend the afternoon and sleep around Bimini somewhere, find a nice little spot to park, and then wait until the next day on Monday and see if perhaps we get some better ones then and sail ourselves home. That decision's not really made yet. Right now I'm just trying to maintain a course that'll keep the sails full and keep us moving around 1.6 knots, 1.7, 1.8. I'll be happy with that right now. But Happy New Year to everybody. I think for most people, and it's kind of an American tradition, that it's a time for reflection, and some people make resolutions and they're resolving to change this or change that. But for me, I just sometimes just sit back and think about things, and what things I do want to change, or am I on the right course, or if I want to make changes. And I think if there's any resolutions, it would be, I'm tired of being alone, and away from my girl, and so we're going to be together one way or another soon, and I'm trying to figure a way to do that. But step one is to get this boat over to the USA and get it into the marina so we can sleep a few days, and then I'm going to go work a job. So a lot of the viewers don't know that. I've agreed to work a job in the state of Georgia in the USA to help work a nuclear plant project, help this team, get to the finish line on the big project. So I'm happy to help, make a little money, sure, but no social contact, sure, that's good too, but mostly to make me sit back and step back away from the boat for a few months and just think, do I want to keep doing this, or do I want to do it in a different way? Do I belong on a power boat? I mean, honestly, should I be getting a trawler instead of a sailboat and just kind of do coastal USA cruising and just chug around on a trawler? And I don't think that's a bad thing, so obviously you're not going to cross the world, on a trawler, but I got a lot of stuff to think about. So anyway, Happy New Year to everybody, and best wishes on your New Year's. Where we're at looks like this. This is the Great Bahama Bank. There's Florida, USA. Here's the Bahamas. And we're trying to cross that body of water there. That's the bottom line. Oh, good heavens. So, that's Bimini. It's a pretty famous island. If you go further north from Bimini, you can see the edge of the bank is here. And I crossed that a couple of weeks back. I came south this way, when I came down from West End, and I went across a little bit of the bank. But now we're sitting over here and we're trying to make our way to that little waypoint, and then we're going to blast across the Gulf Stream and head over to Florida. But when I say blast, we're doing everything at 1.4, 1.5 knots, and not exactly meteoric travel, but it's where we're at. So the goal today is to cover this 23.9 miles and get that done in 12 hours. That's assuming I can make 2 knots, which I'm not making yet. So it might take longer than that. But I'm thinking the winds are going to pick up. I just have a feeling we'll get some more wind, and I'll be sailing at 3 knots in a little while. So, but we need to avoid this shoal area, so I'm watching out for that. But that's at least 7 miles away, so I'm not going to get there for several hours. And then we'll just have to jog around. And of course we can always turn on the engine and cover some of this distance if we need to. Yeah. The engine, we have run the engine twice already today. Well, 3 times I guess. When we first left the harbor, we ran the engine about 20 minutes, and then we sailed all day. until we got through the Northwest Channel, and we sailed really, really well for a few hours, and then the wind just died around 1:30 p.m. I mean, it was like flat like a mirror. There was two other sailboats out there. We all had sails up, and we're just sitting there looking at each other. No one was moving at all. Maybe like a 1 knot. So, been pretty slow since then. Then twice run the engine for 2 hours in each time. So twice at 2 hours, that's 4 hours of engine time. Make about 5 knots. Because we have a little bit of a tailwind. There's a very slight wind from the southeast still. And so if I ran the engine, I'd make about 5.5 knots. And I can do that again. I can run the engine another couple hours, and it just makes a housekeeping mess for me because my shaft seal leaks a bit and the engine has an oil leak. So I prefer to sail at 2 knots through the rest of the night, and then prefer to get some wind tomorrow. We're considering anchoring, like I mentioned, in the daytime tomorrow if there's just no wind. I don't think it's prudent to jump onto the Gulf Stream if there's just no wind. I mean, none at all, unless I'm committed to dieseling all the way across it. So, because you get exposed. Once you're out there, you're exposed. Forecast says on Monday the winds will start coming from the south, so that'd be an argument for anchoring the rest of Sunday, getting a little rest, toasting the new year, and then shoving off again on Monday. So we'll make that decision in the daylight. But for tonight, I'm just trying to do whatever I can to make this thing go a little bit faster with the existing wind, and I'm just kind of marching toward my objective. So I'm on a good heading, and she seems to like the heading. The sail's full. It's just no wind hardly at all. So anyway. That's what I think. I know what's going on here. This is a boy meets girl moment, isn't it? That's okay. You two do what you got to do. Appreciate seeing you. But we need wind. Correct wind, please. January 1st, location just north of Bimini Island. Trying to get some wind, trying to sail, but no luck with that so far. But we do have our friends to visit. Okay, we're motoring across the Gulf Stream now, and you can tell where the Gulf Stream is. These big merchant boats. That merchant boat there is heading southbound, and he was about a mile closer to me. These guys are northbound. And that tells me that that's where the Gulf Stream is. So at the moment I'm bringing my course a little bit to port to make sure I pass well clear of the big guy closest to me. But the other one's already passed me. And then I need to worry about that one out there. And I don't think I have any other collision concerns. Once I get past this bit, and of course there's that white one over there, I gotta watch out for that guy. But the swell is getting pretty good size, you can see, but it's a large period. So I'm not too worried about the swell right now. How to get back on the helm. But this is the Gulf Stream. When you see northbound traffic, that means you're in the Gulf Stream. That's what you know. And when I saw the southbound traffic, I know I was not in the Gulf Stream yet, but I'm passing his wake now. Alrighty, back in the helm. Well, for the most part, I steered course 270 exactly, which is straight west, like I'm showing with my pen. but you can see the yellow line behind my red line showing the actual course I'm making good. That's all due to the north moving water dragging me north. Okay, so it's hell, I don't know when it is. Okay, so it's January 3, Tuesday. Time's about 8:30 in the morning. We've been sailing all night. That is to say, sailing since midnight. So Ken is still with me. We jumped in the boat at midnight and shoved off, and I logged that we were underway at exactly 0000, but I think it was really 10 after. We motored about 20 minutes, and we did a close reach to get about 3-4 miles out and got in the Gulf Stream, because in West Palm the Gulf Stream is right there. I mean, within a mile of the coast you're getting Gulf Streamed. And we rode the Gulf Stream for quite a ways, and now we're closing the coast. We've still beam reached the whole way, and it was very, very rolly. We're getting pretty much easterly winds, and which generates the easterly swell, so we're almost beamed to the swell for about 4 hours during our northward run, making really good time. Now we're trying to steer like that. We're trying to go northwest to head for the inlet, which is, as you can see, 6.6 miles away, and heading up 295. And the object, of course, is to get right on top of the channel markers, and then drop the main real fast and get in the channel. I mean, it's so rolly out here. The inlet can't be any worse than this. I mean, this is just uncomfortable as hell. And we got 6 miles to go. We're making 3 knots, so do the math. We got 2 more hours of this to get in there. If it weren't for the swell, I would be happy to just stay out here and linger and loiter for about 2 extra hours, because the best time to enter the channel in Fort Pierce would be about 2 hours after the listed high tide. That's based on my observations from before. And what I noticed in the past, if you come in at what the astronomical slack tide, it seems that for whatever reason, even though it's at low tide, the water keeps coming out for about 2 more hours, and the reverse is true for high tide. So you think you come in a high or low and you've got slack water with nothing moving. It's just not the case in Fort Pierce Inlet. I was taking down, I went up topside to take down the main, and when I get up on deck I was confused because I saw a pile of line, and I realized that the halyard for the Genoa broke again. This is a new rope I put up there. I used 7/16 braided, double braid, and it broke almost exact same spot. So I don't understand. I think there was no abrasion on the rope, as though it got chewed up by the fact that the shivs don't rotate. I mean, the fact that the shivs don't rotate, I don't think is what breaks it. It doesn't make sense to me, because once the halyard was installed over those shivs, very carefully tightened, and then it never moved again. So I think the headstay must be bouncing around or vibrating in a way that's causing premature failure. It caused the last halyard to fail, and now this one did. So it's like, well, shit. And the other problem with the boat is the engine. The shaft seal is really leaking a lot. It leaks about 2 drops a second now when I'm running the engine. So it does make a real housekeeping mess for us. So I'm going to go in there and clean that up real quick and try to fix that. Joy. I'll say some things. You don't have to say anything. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. Successful trip.
Successful trip. That was how many days, Ken? I think 5 days total. We left Nassau when?
Friday morning.
Friday morning, and now it's Tuesday
afternoon.
Midday. So long damn trip, but we had some great times and we had some not so hot times. And we ran the hell out of the diesel on one day. We just ran, I think, 12 hours on one day.